It's like awakening them to begin to dream.
Mm-hmm.
I'm absolutely convinced that Christians are awake if they're dreaming.
Mm-hmm.
If they're not dreaming, they're still sleeping.
And welcome to Going Home. I'm Craig Young, and we're going to be looking at people, families, ministries, churches, and seeing where God is moving through His people.
And so as I'm running on this indoor track, I hear just a voice going, "Bruce, I want you to move to Victoria." Well, we'd never been to Victoria. We didn't really know anybody in Victoria, and that's all I heard.
Jenny was very precious because she looked at her dad and she said, "Well, what did he say, Dad? Did he say, I want you to move, or did he say, I want you to go?" And Dad said, he said, "I want you to move to Victoria." And she said, "Well, then we have to move to Victoria."
And it wasn't until we got here I said, "Okay, Lord, I need to get to work now." He said, "I want you to seek me." I said, "Lord, I can't afford to seek you right now." And he just said, "Bruce, you can't afford not to seek me right now."
We started a church. We never came here thinking we were going to start a church.
Oh, so there you are. Another week here at Going Home. It's the Going Home Show. I'm Craig Young, sitting with, look at this, Pastors Bruce and Lorraine Friesen. Thank you for coming and being a part of the excitement. We're going to hear about your journey here to Victoria and a bit of that history in, what brought you here? How long ago was it?
Almost 26 years ago. It'll be 26 years this summer. Well, it's a fairly lengthy story, but we'll try to give you pieces of it. I was actually living in Winnipeg, Manitoba. Our family, both of our families are from there. Our parents, our brothers, our sisters. And I was training in an indoor track in January of 1986 for the Manitoba Marathon. I wasn't training in order to win, but I was just hoping to be able to finish.
Yeah.
And so as I'm running on this indoor track, I hear just a voice going, "Bruce, I want you to move to Victoria." Well, we'd never been to Victoria. We didn't really know anybody in Victoria, and that's all I heard. And I came home and I told Lorraine, I said, "Lorraine, I've just been out for a run. I've never had this experience before, but I'm convinced it's God." And he said, "Bruce, I want you to move to Victoria." And so...
And Lorraine was like, "All right, let's go. When are we leaving this afternoon?"
Almost.
Really, you were excited.
Well, if he says he heard the audible voice of God, I believed him.
Yeah.
It wasn't like we heard him audibly all the time, but we were familiar with communicating with the Lord.
Yeah.
And so it was a huge step.
Yeah.
And I had my own processing in it, but the Lord was faithful to give me my own word so that when we did move, I would have something to stand on besides, well, my husband said we were doing this.
Yeah.
So it was good.
But over the next week, and it was all elderly people, one of them came and said, "Are you moving to BC?" Another one, "Are you moving?" And another one just came and just started asking questions about us moving. Whereas we hadn't had any dialogue with anybody at that point other than one another.
Yeah.
And we started answering, it looks like we are.
Yeah. Based on these
more
people.
Yes.
asking us about it, it looks like this is exactly what we're doing.
Cool.
But I think all of the, just the people speaking, we started going, "Okay, Lord, when is this? Like, what are we supposed to do?" And we started getting more clarity, and he said, "Put your house up for sale." give your business, a roofing and construction company, to your brother. And after you do this and sell your home, and I want you to then give almost everything away, give the majority of the money away. And so when we moved, we came with a small trailer with just really our kids' clothing and some of their toys. All the furniture, all the appliances, everything was gone. And just before we left, we phoned a lady that we had met at a Bible camp outside of Winnipeg. And we got a hold of her telephone number and told her we're moving here.
Yeah.
And when we arrived in Quesnel, there was a message that she'd called. And so we phoned her and she said, yeah, friends of mine are moving to Brandon, Manitoba. I didn't want to say anything. I knew they were doing that, but I didn't know if they had somebody for their house or not. And she said, when I talked to them, they said, we had somebody, but they just canceled.
Wow.
And so now we have nobody to rent our home and we've got to go in a couple of days. And so she told me about the situation and told them as well. And I said, we'll take it.
Yeah. How did you walk with the kids through this? How old were they at the time when?
7, 6, and 4.
Okay. And so as they're sort of growing up in this and you know, at that age, I think they're seeing a bit of a change, still fairly young. But how are they adjusting to what's going on? What's happening there?
Well, our eldest daughter was 6 when we presented this word from God.
Yeah.
And she's prophetic, but in a very natural way. And she's much older than 6 now.
Yeah.
And so when we were sitting around the table explaining that Dad had heard God speak, and he had said, you know, that we were to move to Victoria, and we were trying to figure out when and what, Jenny was very precious because she looked at her dad and she said, well, what did he say, Dad? Did he say, I want you to move, or did he say, I want you to go? And Dad said, he said, I want you to move to Victoria. And she said, well, then we have to move to Victoria.
I love it.
It was difficult on our second child, a daughter as well. She is an extremely, she's very strong in relationships. She's a very loyal person. She loves family. And she grieved her cousins, her grandparents. So her first year in school was very difficult because she just was in grief. And I would have conferences with her teachers saying, we've done everything to try to get her to do her work, and she just doesn't.
Yeah.
So we tried some tricks at home and it still wasn't working. And I can remember one day saying to the Lord, we don't know what to do in this regard. I just have to give her to you because she was part of this move and you're going to have to secure her in this. Well, like that following week, I got called in. She had 2 women who were sharing the work of her class. Though they called me in to have a special meeting, and I was like, oh, great, now what, you know. They said, what did you do? And I don't know, what do you mean? She goes, it's just flipped over. She's getting everything done. She's completely caught up. What did you do? How did you motivate her?
Yeah.
I was like,
Can we market this?
I didn't do, all I did was give her into the Lord. I didn't do anything special. And so he raised her up in that as well. And our son, he was 4 when we moved here, and he pretty much
Went with the flow.
became an islander really quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you're here in Victoria. What are you feeling as far as being called? What does that begin to look like?
Well, I almost feel like when we came, it was like Abraham not knowing why. It's just go. And so there was no instruction, there was no direction. And so we simply just obeyed and followed as best as we could. And it wasn't until we got here I said, okay, Lord, I need to get to work now. And he said, I want you to seek me. I said, Lord, I can't afford to seek you right now. And he just said, Bruce, you can't afford not
Yeah.
to seek me right now. And so I spent time going away for a week to 3 weeks, just fasting, praying, and saying, okay, why are we here?
Mm-hmm.
What's this about?
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I felt like he just began to speak to me, and maybe not so much in a supernatural way, but directing me to Haggai,
Mm-hmm.
and really saying what he was doing in the city, and beginning to show me what my role was in what he was doing, and that I was supposed to be like a Haggai, really encouraging the leaders to be building his house. On a personal level, it's this house of prayer. We are this house. On a corporate level, not building our own churches, our own ministries, but really corporately building his house. And if we did that, he'd fill it with his glory.
And life just evolves. But I feel that right now we're actually living in a day where a fulfilled prophecy, Bruce and I, in our own personal life. And we started a church. We never came here thinking we were going to start a church. And we have people who, I'm not even sure where they came from. They've come because they've heard that we have a reputation of looking for what the Spirit is doing. And so they come hungry for the things of the Spirit. And we seem to be in a season right now where the Lord is breathing fresh into us, onto some of the roots of who Bruce and I are personally, and the roots of what this church is that we've planted.
So, you know, typically when someone thinks of church, they may think of programs and small groups or community groups and all these sort of things. But I'm not hearing that you know, that structure. I'm hearing something that actually goes further than some of the parameters of what church should look like. Is that fair?
Definitely.
We have no problem with a program structured small group organization, anything like that. That has been really successful in a lot of churches. It hasn't been what's worked for us, but we really enjoy grassroots things. So when we find out that there's a group of people who are meeting and they're going through the Bible together, we're really excited about that. We want to hear how that's going.
Yeah.
If somebody starts talking to us that they are looking for something like that, then we'll ask that group, do you want to open your doors, let a few more in? So we're really excited about things like that.
And so we really want to inspire people to take the initiative to identify what God has put on the inside of them, and believing that as they do, they're going to start experiencing more. And it's trying to help them. It's like awakening them to begin to dream. I'm absolutely convinced that Christians are awake if they're dreaming. If they're not dreaming, they're still sleeping.
Okay, thank you so much, Bruce, Lorraine, for coming here to Going Home Show. Another week, and being able to hear just the honesty and about how the Spirit's been using you in ministry, and how God's been leading you and continuing to lead you. Hey, I have one last question. Bruce, Lorraine, where are you going?
I'm going home.
Going home.